Today and welcome back to Weekend Edition. This is Rehash, where we recap the big stories of the past week. And one of the biggest stories this week actually came from Nick. Nick, what was that about?
Yeah, Chris, so it was a story from a visiting USS Roosevelt sailor who had the time of his life, apparently, a drunken night, and went into a rage over at a store at the Nikko Hotel after that night. And so he was arrested and charged for destroying the property there. We included, the security video inside and spoke with the management about how that was just a frightening moment for the lone store worker that was there early that morning, that Friday morning. And so, of course, he's been charged locally but been released and left with the ship, and now it's for the military to decide his fate.
And, I forgot to announce or mention that we have a new face here on Rehash. And this is Carmen Turlai, our new reporter.
Hello.
She dares join our team, and I know we kind of threw her into the ocean with just a life vest. But what were you up to this week?
Yeah, so my favorite story this week was the story about food trucks. So local food trucks were ushered off of their property in Agana, and it was really interesting to speak with the owners and how this has affected their business. We even spoke with senators, so we got to have a good balance of all sides of the story. Many of them cited safety reasons, which is understandable, right? But I think for me, the most important part of the story was what it would mean for the future of local small businesses on Guam. And so kind of looking back to it, I hope to see development of this story in the future.
And they did propose an alternate solution, right? An alternate site.
Yes, they proposed an alternate site near the Academy of Our Lady of Guam, and I know some of the local food truck vendors were interested, but a little skeptical as to would this really be the same? Will we have the same business, right? So all of these logistics are being kind of figured out by both sides, so that's really cool to follow.
That was a really good piece. Good job.
Yeah, and I really hope that we can continue to see small businesses flourish, especially because I really enjoy some of these food vendors. You see them around.
I love it so much.
But myself, before we get to Jason, who will lighten it up, I covered a big trial at the Judiciary of Guam. It was actually one of the fastest trials I've ever experienced, especially for a manslaughter charge. Again, 3 men were arrested late last year for the death of Brian Cruz. He's a very popular bodyboarder. He passed away last year after he was discovered unconscious in the back of a car. And so earlier that night, he happened to have a drunken night with friends, and his friends were actually arrested in connection to his death. And again, his friends were J.C. White, Richard Regadio, and Alfredo Castro. So what ended up happening was, one by one, they started to resolve their case. So Richard Regadio, he entered a plea agreement with the government. Mr. Castro ended up being acquitted of the charges because he was charged with kidnapping. And interestingly enough, the judge, determined, hey, there wasn't enough reason to charge him with kidnapping, dropped the charges. So it was just Mr. White left to face a jury. And oh my goodness, I had just finished writing the story and was called back to the court, not even 2 hours, I want to say, and jurors had already returned with a verdict. And it was really surprising. It was not guilty for manslaughter, not guilty for negligent homicide, but guilty of aggravated assault. And again, JC was seen on surveillance footage punching Mr. Cruz in the head and knocking him unconscious. But again, aggravated assault carries about 0 to 5 years in jail. We'll see later this year when JC's actually sentenced. And that's going to, oh no, not done yet. Jason.
Little old me hanging out over here. Well, you guys know me. I reported absolutely nothing this week, but we did build a conduit that actually carries your guys' very fine work out and gives it to the community, because we have a new app that is out on Roku streaming players. The little dongles you can plug into your TV if you actually have a Roku TV where the software is actually built in, or you may have like a streaming set-top box. You can take it anywhere you go as long as you have an internet connection. If you got really good Wi-Fi, you can watch our content anywhere in the world. It is super, super cool. It's like an Apple TV, but cheaper, same features and everything. It's available in the Roku channel store right now. So please go get it. Just search KUAM News. You will not be disappointed.
So many ways to watch our news program. And if you have any for us, you can email us at reporters@kuam.com.